Hello, welcome to Nyambung, a program to make you click and connect with me, Dina Praptoraharja, and my co-host, Nadila Amani.
Maybe let's just start. Okay, let's discuss the first item on our discussion list today. You mentioned about the 75th UNGA resolution, Bu Dina. I'm so contempt to say UNGA, but it's UNGA.
UNGA, UNGA, that's how you say it.
I'm so contempt to say UNGA, Bu Dina. Dated back in 14th June 2021, a voting on the resolution titled Prevention of Armed Conflict focusing on the situation in Myanmar. Regarding to this, I noticed that once again the Indonesian media take the issue on the situation on Myanmar as a center stage on primetime TV news and media coverage. If I could list the topics such as the abstain of the four ASEAN countries from the UN resolution on Myanmar, the 230,000 of Myanmar residents becoming refugees due to conflict, to the clash between the junta and the anti-junta that killed 800 civilians that happened recently, to the update on the international reaction on relationship to the junta. These four topics becomes headlines on some of the media and being continuously updated. This is a sign that Indonesia continues to be committed to airing what is going on in and with Myanmar. Indonesia supports the resolution, right, Bu Dina? But since some countries in the region were abstain on the resolution, would the resolution make much impact to the situation on the ground?
Okay, Nadila, first let's discuss the content of the resolution. The United Nations has 193 member states. 119 voted in favor of the resolution, but one country, Belarus, voted against it. 36 abstained, which means 37 member states did not vote.
Okay, Bu Dina, maybe if I could ask, what is abstain, Bu Dina?
Abstain in the context of United Nations may mean several things. On the one hand, it may mean that the country simply doesn't want to take position, either because of their situation at the domestic levels or because they have other role to play at the regional level or with other forums that they are engaged with. Or the second possibility is that they are not quite happy with the resolution. There are some aspects of the resolution that they wish can be taken out, so that they feel that it's much better for them to show a sense of, at least it's not rejection, but it's just incomplete, not a complete support of the resolution itself.
Okay.
Because if you reject, basically you simply don't think the resolution is relevant at all. But if at least some part of the resolution is considered necessary, some country would take the position of being abstain.
Okay, now I get it. Okay, Bu Dina.
So the resolution this time shows that there is a strong tendency for most member states of the United Nations to reject several things. So the resolution, with the support of 119 countries, strongly reject attacks and violence against civilians by the authority. Second, recognize that the military must end restrictions on the internet and social media, and instruct that all member states need to prevent the flow of arms into Myanmar. So this is a breakthrough, in my view, for getting a global common position against the military junta that's been causing layers and layers of problems inside of Myanmar for months. It's entering the 5th month already. So please note that only one country reject, only Belarus. And Belarus is not a neighboring country, nor a country that would determine the follow-up actions on the resolution. So to me, the voting and the conclusion of this resolution give me a sigh of relief, because last month there was a point where the resolution was pending. It took a month for them to go into this position. Why? Because one member state insists that ASEAN member states should take a vote as a bloc. So everybody should take common same position, which I think it's impossible because they are not in one position, and let it be like that. So the UNGA's resolution gives more reason for Tatmadaw to see that the world is growing tired of what the Tatmadaw has been doing, that they are willing to say openly that what Tatmadaw is doing is unacceptable, and that the leadership of the world does not hesitate to be hard and tough against the military junta. With the UNGA resolution, this actually strengthens earlier issuance of condemnations from the UN. If we recall, several weeks ago, there was condemnation by United Nations Security Council on the death of hundreds of civilians and the rapidly deteriorating situation and the use of violence against peaceful protesters. Of course, we know that not all permanent members of United Nations Security Council agree to the condemnation. Some already mentioned that the resolution, the statement was watered down significantly by China after a very tough 2 days of negotiation. Nevertheless, this is 2 UN bodies already saying something really strong about Tatmadaw, about what should be done to Tatmadaw, and what should not be happening again inside of Myanmar. Of course, one thing to notice is that ASEAN is divided. Thailand abstained, Brunei abstained, Laos and Cambodia also abstained for various different reasons. Thailand, for instance, is saying to the media that the resolution failed to take into account the historical context of the conflict. This is the word that they use, that I just quote. That the resolution, they say, could adversely affect a peaceful settlement and magnify the security challenges for Thailand if the conflict remains prolonged. Brunei doesn't say specifically about why it take the abstain position, but many argues that the position of Brunei as chair of ASEAN puts the Brunei in difficult position of saying no. It somehow need to provide solution for the conflicts in Myanmar, but at the same time, it realizes that some member states remained adamant about being more decisive, about the conflict. So my take of it is that these ASEAN member states basically only think about themselves. They have difficulty of thinking beyond national interests. They forgot that once they are in ASEAN, they also have to think about collective needs. Of course, Brunei, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, each has some domestic considerations to consider. Like, for instance, Thailand, I know they are very afraid that if they suggest that what Myanmar junta is doing is unacceptable, it will reflect badly on them because they're also military junta. Cambodia is also led by military men.
Yeah.
Laos is an authoritarian regime that basically also always try to prevent any change to the status quo inside of the country. So the question is, why can't you think beyond what's going on in your country? This is, after all, a regional issue that would create a spillover effect to the neighboring countries. So at least they should think a bit farther than just their inside issues, domestic issues. So another thing that you have to realize, Nadila, is that India, China, Russia, and some countries in Middle East, such as Saudi and United Arab Emirates, abstained as well. I think my take on this is that the neighboring countries of Myanmar is obviously cares very little about what's going on inside of Myanmar. They would rather prevent any refugees coming to their countries, but at the same time, they too don't want to. They don't want to take the chance to become more, what do you call it, resourceful to the conflict that's been going on in the neighbors arena. So what I'm most concerned about is that that means that killings, displacements, violence is not seen as something urgent in their eyes. It's just another daily occurrence, you know.
Yeah, and this is so interesting for me too, Bu Dinna, because what I know is Russia and China is also kind of like trying to talk with the junta too, right? Recently.
True. So if you look at the pattern, countries there are either authoritarian or illiberal in democracy tend to be ignorant about conflicts and killings and displacements and violence. This is an alarming sign for the rest of the world, for those who have been fighting for dignity of human beings and human rights. This is a serious setbacks. So I, for one reason, believe that at least with the UNGA being quite open about what to condemn is already a good progress. This is at least showing to the world that the majority of countries of the world still have a sense, still have respect to human dignity. Especially if I compare with the November 2019 resolution, that the UNGA also issued on the situation in Myanmar. Back at the time, the issue was about human rights violations against the Rohingya Muslims and the minorities. What we can notice at that time, 140 countries was in favor to condemning the action, to express grave concern. Basically, that's what the language they use, at continuing reports of serious human rights violations and violations of international humanitarian law against the Rohingya and other minorities. So 140 countries was in favor, much more than the number of countries saying agreement to the blockage of to the embargo of weapons and also to stopping violence ongoing in Myanmar today. But at that time, the country who were against were more countries. There were 9 countries: Belarus, Cambodia, China, Laos, Myanmar, Philippines, Russia, Vietnam, and Zimbabwe. So if we look back, the position of the countries that reject, it includes 4 member states of ASEAN, five member states of ASEAN: Cambodia, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Philippines, and Vietnam. Whereas in what just happened this month, Myanmar agreed to the embargo. So the the ambassador of Myanmar in the UN, which is not from the military, decided that that's a good position to go. So that's a green light, from the country, relevant country. There's no reason why other countries that is not directly involved would say no to supporting Myanmar, right? That's the logic. And then if you notice, the other countries in ASEAN who was against, now they are just abstain. So at least it's a more encouraging sign, that something can change at the international level, and that's through the UNGA. I think many dynamics we can discuss about the UNGA, but in my view, what just happened at the UN supposedly should boost the confidence of ASEAN, boost the confidence of the NUG, the National Unity Government inside of Myanmar. Of course, some hard works are still needed by countries supporting the resolution, including Indonesia. That is to convince, to push for the abstain country to change position. But again, to abstain doesn't mean to reject. So some things can still be discussed, negotiated. So that's a good progress. And we just need to prioritize what issue to negotiate. And I think one of the critical thing to do is to make sure that the neighboring countries of Myanmar, those sharing borders, would agree to provide humanitarian assistance, to make sure that they don't just block their borders, and please stop the flow of deadly weapons to enter Myanmar.
Thank you so much for your support once again. Our podcast is available at YouTube and Spotify at Nyambung with Dina Praptora Harja. Make sure to send us your questions or your thoughts through YouTube comment section. And if you enjoy the episode, don't forget to like, share the link to your community, and subscribe so you make sure you don't miss our contents because we post every week.